Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to the What's Up Wednesday Unlock the Joy of Play webinar with Liz Nebeker, Instruction Librarian at Lone Star College, and Patrick Provant, Library Assistant at Multnomah County Public Library. This webinar is also being co-sponsored by the American Library Association's Games and Gaming Roundtable. My name is George Bergstrom, and I'm the Southern Regional Coordinator for the Indiana State Library's Professional Development Office. I'll be giving some quick announcements and moderating today's discussion. I'd like to start off the webinar with a few quick announcements. To register for other webinars or other trainings available from the Professional Development Office, please see the Indiana State Library's events calendar, which can be found on our website at www.in.gov/library. This session is 1 hour, so you'll get 1 LEU for today. If you're watching the archived recording of this webinar, the instructions on how to obtain your LEU are available in the video's description on YouTube. Or you can also find these instructions on the Indiana State Library's continuing education site under the LEU policies. All right. So today we're going to have a discussion with our two panelists about unlocking the joy of play and specifically how it relates to International Games Month, which is coming up in November. But before we dive into that, I just want to kind of set our sort of agenda for the day. So I will go over very briefly some resources that are available from the Roundtable and some of the things that are different about this year's International Games Month. And then each of our panelists will have a few minutes to sort of talk about their experiences with it. But the bulk of our time we're hoping to keep reserved for discussion. So if you have any questions as we go along, please feel free to drop those in the chat. All right. So the main resources that I want you to be aware of are the core website for International Games Month, which is games.ala.org/International Games Month. And I'll go ahead and drop that in the chat in here in just a minute. On there, you'll find all of our sponsors. And this year, we've definitely got more sponsors than we've had in the last couple of years. I think we're now up to about 1,200 games that are going to be given away if registration hits high enough levels, physical games, and 300 or 400 digital games. So we definitely want to encourage people to register this year because we've got some really good feedback. Also, as a reminder, we've had a webinar a couple of years ago on running game jams, and that's kind of a really good program opportunity to do during the month. So I'll drop the link for that as well in the chat. As I said, if you have questions throughout, just go ahead and drop those in for us. And now I'd like to kind of open up and have each of our panelists kind of describe how they've approached Games Month in the past. Liz, do you want to go ahead and get us started?
Sure. First of all, I apologize. My camera is not working. So I apologize for that. I am beautiful, the most beautiful person you could ever imagine. That is what I look like, just so you know. So my library is a joint use library. We are a community college. We're based in a community college campus, but we are also part of the Harris County Public Library. So our patrons are very varied. We have a children's library on the community college campus library. So we have lots of people coming and going all the time. My foray into International Game Month was when it was still only a week long. So it was International Game Week. And I was super excited about it. So I went to my library director. I was like, this would be a great way to get people into the library and getting them just going through the library. So I started doing passive programming, and I actually on my own kept all my stuff up for a month. But I do a lot of passive games. So we have a big open space in the back of our library, and we change that space out every year. One year we put a big Scrabble board there, like a life-size Scrabble board. We have done life-size checkers. Last year we did a life-size Candyland game in that area. And what's great about that is it's in the back part of our library. So we do have our public patrons that get to actually walk through our community college library and get to see all the things that we offer. We also do a lot of passive uh, bulletin boards, but they're not, I can't remember what they're called. But we do things like we changed it out weekly where we do big boggle games on the board, and they can turn those in and win little prizes when they complete a boggle. We also do, since it's International Games Month, we research games that they might not be familiar with. And we've done, I can't remember the name of the game now. Of course, I knew that was going to happen, but different strategy games that are two-player that the patrons can participate in and learn about other games, and not just the ones that they're normally playing, like tic-tac-toe and things like that. So we have games laid out throughout our library, and we really see a pickup in our foot traffic through the library during Games Month because we have a lot of people that come through the library. We also last year implemented during International Games Month, we implemented every Thursday was a learn how to play day. And we did one Thursday we did learn how to play D&D, and I recruited our school board game group to come and help teach D&D. We had a learn how to play Pokemon, so that we could get some of the families interested in it. We also had a one of the Saturdays we had a jigsaw puzzle tournament, a family jigsaw puzzle tournament, which was really cool because I found some YouTube videos of the international jigsaw tournament, and I put them on the video, and people were shocked that there was actually jigsaw puzzle tournaments, like it was a real thing. And they were like, oh my God, it's like a real competition. And so that was really a lot of fun. And people have been asking if we're going to do that again. So I'm excited to have that. And we learned a lot when we did it. When you make it a family, say it's a family jigsaw tournament, you have to have some things in place to occupy little ones who really can't sit that long, but the parents are super excited about doing the puzzles. So yeah, and so those are some of the basic things that we do, and I think it's really helped improve participating in International Game Month has really helped improve our traffic in our library. We also do some social media posts, word games and things on social media posts as well.
Great, thanks. Yeah, we just the Roundtable just did a puzzle tournament at ALA Annual this year, which was really fun. Okay, Patrick, go ahead and give us some of your experiences.
Well, hi, good morning, all. This may be amusing because I have this is my first meeting with y'all, and I have not had experience one iota with International Games Month other than hearing about it and going, well, I would support that. And here we are. But I have had a ton of experience with games, even games in libraries. So, and things that we have done, I work at a public library in Portland, Oregon. And since I am there, it's a silly one. And so we keep things light. We've always had, let's see, before I got there, there was already a chess club going. We have staff who speak Chinese and Vietnamese and Russian and Spanish at my particular branch. So we've had some international things just naturally. We've had a Chinese chess club. We've had Loteria. I don't know if there's been any Russian or Vietnamese based game things. I don't recall any. Passive programming that Liz mentioned, we've done that too with our team council. They sort of invented that, and so we would put up on a board a Connect Four thing that they made little Velcro pieces, and so people could just stop and play Connect Four with each other. But they also did a light bright thing, which was not exactly a game, but it was fun. Let's see. More actively, we had in fact, with part of our teen council folks, we set up a Dance Dance Revolution tournament. That may date me a little bit, but and I discovered as someone who hung out in the teen room and was kind of the mentor and contact, if there's only one teen who arrives first, they need a partner. So I got good at Dance Dance Revolution. Um, let's see. So and just the success of anything we've had is just being willing to participate ourselves. So a variety of staff would get involved in these things. Um, we've always had games available for our summer reading volunteers, and we frequently get roped into a round of Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza, or which is a card game, in case you're not familiar with that one. It's a fast-paced one where there is slapping. um, or Uno, certainly. What's the other one? Now we've just had a remodel, and in our teen space, we have a switch hooked up all the time. And so we can unlock it for the teens, as long as it's actually teens in the room and not littles. And Cuphead is a surprising popular one right now. Um, on the public computers, we sometimes wind up getting called in to assist with like, hey, I can't do my Roblox account. So there's public computer work we do. And
Sure.
maybe finally, I after a long time of fussing and making noises, I've got support for getting some D&D supplies for maybe hosting a regular library group. Probably for teens, but because that's who I work with the most, but maybe even adults. We'll see. So lots of games at the library, not connected with the games month yet, but I bet we can
Sure.
do better.
Sounds great. So yeah, as kind of to highlight from that, any library can sign up, and it's completely up to you all what you do to participate in the month. And the roundtable encourages anyone to sign up, if for no other reason than to sort of raise awareness of what you might have at your library. Um, I'll stop at this point and see if there's any questions in the chat. Does anyone have questions about gaming in your library, or specifically about the program in November? Now's your chance. And while you're thinking about that, I also dropped the links in the chat for the Roundtable's Facebook group. You do not have to be a member of the Roundtable to join the Facebook or the Discord, so those links are there, and you can be connected to hundreds of librarians around the country who do this sort of stuff. So, okay, Sarah has a question. And then it moved. Do these libraries always have games, or do you rent some for the month? I mean, I'll let Liz and Patrick answer here in a moment, but in general, I'm going to guess that most libraries have the collections themselves that they own. But as I did mention, we have lots of sponsors every year who are willing to give stuff away. And so that is one of the benefits of registering, is you'll get into the drawing to hopefully win some free games. So if you have nothing in your collection yet, that might be one way to get some. I mean, I think I heard from both of them that they already have them, but I'll give each one a chance to kind of discuss that if you'd like.
So yeah, we do have our own games. One of the things that I really want to start doing, we don't have a game library yet that patrons can check out, but we do have a pretty good collection of our own games. And I will say a lot of them are free games that we have gotten from joining International Games Month. Because what it surprised me, because it wasn't even just during International Games Month that we got a game sent to us like sometime this summer. So it's a great way to build your collection if you are interested in doing that. Last year was it last year or the year before that we got Really Loud Librarians, which was a shock when I opened that up, and I was like, this is a great game for us to play. So yeah, it's games. Most of the games we have purchased. Some have been donated. One of the other things that goes over really well in our library during this International Game Month is we have a cornhole set up, and they love the cornhole like it's crazy. So it helps because it's also a good stress reliever for our students, and it's, a great way to get patrons involved.
So I'll answer Lacey's question really quick, and then I'll let Patrick address how they got their games. Are there requirements to participate? The only thing that the Roundtable asks is that you have at least one event sometime in the month of November related to games. It could be anything you want. We're not going to, check on you, not coming to, storm libraries. At the end of the month, a survey goes out to anyone who did register, and we ask, what the event was it a success, stuff like that. So that's really the only requirements.
And the event can be a passive event. It can be setting up a cornhole in the back of your library, and that would be considered an event.
Yep.
I'll just say also, at the last PLA, I got some fun ideas for things we haven't done yet about what did they have? It was a virtual scavenger hunt, I think, was the main thing that they'd set up around their neighborhood where you could just go see various sites that they thought were significant and get digital badges and then turn that in at the library for something physical. It's been a couple of months, so I've forgotten some of the details, but yeah, we've been very fortunate in having a strong support from our community, and so we have a budget for these things. And so yes, we own these games. We will buy them for the teen rooms or things like that. And in fact, I've been given a permission to go out and start buying those D&D things, so I'm kind of excited.
And I do want to say, when it comes to the D&D things, Wizards of the West Coast is really great about helping people start getting into it. They have educator things, which I think they also have library things where you can sign up and they will send you some starter dice. I don't know, with them switching over the rules, I don't know where they are in that process of being able to donate to libraries at this point, but it's also a great place to reach out. And there's also one of the things I did was I reached out to some of my teens were wanting to play Magic. So we reached out to this thing called Magic Kids, and I think they're related to Wizards of the West Coast, or they work with Wizards of the West Coast. But Magic Kids sent us a whole bunch of magic counters and magic cards and all kinds of deck boxes and starter kits. And it was, okay, Wizards of the Coast. I don't know why I keep saying Wizards of the West Coast. I don't know.
Well, they are on the West Coast.
That's why. So they sent us a whole bunch of magic stuff, which was great. Someone earlier had talked about doing an adult board game group, and it's definitely a great time to see if people would be interested in participating in that. And someone also said that they didn't know that passive things counted, which that's what's great about this, is that it's a great introduction to just introducing gaming at your library in the easiest way possible, so that your patrons are starting to get some experience with the gaming. So, my 2 cents.
Yeah, the Roundtable is certainly very much of the belief that these games are powerful in many, many ways. I mean, obviously, play is one of the most natural things we as humans do. Kids do it instinctively, and as we grow older, we just sort of, for whatever reason, play less and less. And it's have so many benefits to us that libraries sort of encouraging and building those communities can be pretty important.
One of the things that participating in International Game Month also did for me was it really made me become more involved in the gamer roundtable, because I had always heard about it. And then when I started doing this International Game Month and I was looking at their lists of resources and the things that they offered, it's an amazing roundtable that does a lot of great hard work and really is working hard to bring fun back into the library, which I think is great.
All right. So are there any other questions? Okay, I'll give people a chance to think them up and type them out. I will go ahead and throw one out there then. How much staff time is involved for each of you in these types of programs? I mean, has that been a challenge?
For me, the passive programs, the only staff time is actually creating them. So luckily we do have some volunteers. So this year we're doing a life-size chessboard and we're making our own pieces, but we've come up with an easy way. We're gonna do like foam pieces and we're gonna just draw it on 2 pieces of foam and then slit them and then slide them on top of each other. So we're gonna do basic pieces. We're super excited about that. So staff time when we're closing, walking around telling people that we're closing, it takes a minute to just kind of clean things up, make sure everything's straightened and all the pieces are there. For me, the hardest part is because International Game Month takes place during November and there's so much already going on in November, finding time to find staff members that are willing to give up their weekends in that super busy month to do like a weekend event has been the hardest thing for me.
In my case, it's just things that like you would do setting up a normal program. It's just a little part of the day that you like, okay, we have to be ready for this event coming up. But for the teen events, we had our teen council helping us, so that was easy. I don't have a ton to add to this due to our inexperience with International Games Month.
Yeah, but just games program in general. It doesn't take you any longer.
Not well, I make time for it. It's just part of my day to keep an eye on whatever programs we have coming up.
Great. All right. Well, I'll ask the audience again. Do we have any questions from you all? Programming specific, acquiring games, teaching, anything like that?
Somebody had put in the comments about Games Workshop's Warhammer Alliance is also another good program that is quite generous for intro products. So one of the nice things about Gaming Roundtable is when you sign up for International Game Month, they've already done a lot of the legwork of reaching out to companies and asking for donations or intro materials. One of the other things that International Game Month has and part of the Gaming Roundtable is they have a whole library of print and play games, which are just what it sounds like. They're games that you can print. Some of them might require dice, some of them might require scissors, some of them might require pencils or whatever, but they're games that you can just print and play right then. And it's another great way to get people into quick games.
Yeah, that we really started focusing on that in 2020, obviously with
right.
things being shut down. It was just an extension of the make and take kind of concept that a lot of libraries were already doing. So yeah, there are quite a few listed currently, but we're always looking for more. Okay, Sydney asks, do you do anything specific to promote your game nights or IGM? So from the roundtable perspective, we do have some promotional materials, sort of templates set up that are on the website. You can use them or not. It's totally up to you. But there are some graphics that have been designed, and there are some sort of samples that you can use. And then I'll kind of let Liz talk about how she's promoted specifically IGM, and then obviously Patrick can talk about promoting games nights in general.
So the promotional materials, I think it is so cute. They're just the cutest. It's the cutest little International Game Month symbol. I can't remember what it's called, but they're really cute. So during October and November, I will definitely use those to promote anything that is game related. We try to tie everything in to International Game Month during those times. I've even gotten my children's librarians to jump on board. So I don't do anything different than our normal, like social media, putting up posters, things like that. But I do put that International Game Month symbol header thing on the posters for game related things during October and November.
Well, I plan to, because that
Yeah.
sounds like a fine thing to do. We have, I mean, what I think of as normal library things. We have flyers around the building and on our bulletin board. But we also have a fairly active social media presence. And so our programming team kind of handles that for us. So luckily, those of us who are not big into social media can tell them, and they will put things out there on all the grams and books and Twitters and boxes and X's and all the things.
Great. So Sarah is asking, what is your favorite game for introducing people to games? And before I let the two panelists answer that, I'll kind of do a couple more plugs. The Roundtable has lists on the blog site, which I will go ahead. I mean, it's just the games.ala.org without the extra slash. So there's a section on the site that has lists. So things like, Black History Month games, et cetera, et cetera. Those were developed a year or two ago. We are now sort of moving towards a model of a Hall of Fame of games. So this past January, the first inductees were announced, and we focused on classics that are so old and popular that we don't have provenance. So things like chess and Go, etc. This November, we will be announcing the first inductees into the Hall of Fame that were sort of nominated and chosen by the membership. So that will be coming out this month during International Games Month. But we're going to just keep that going. So in a few years, we hope to have a pretty robust list of sort of games that work great in libraries. For me personally, I really try to, it's like any reader's advisory. You really want to start with learning what type of games the person already plays or knows to maybe get a sense of what would work well with them. But if Liz or Patrick have any sort of favorite games, I'll let them kind of.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's always making sure that because there are so many different types of games, there are so many different types of game mechanics. The jigsaw puzzle really has been a great way to get people into playing games, and they don't consider it a game, but we do because you're trying to figure things out. One of the most important things is to think about games that people played when they were younger, like the Monopoly and the Operation and kind of let them know, kind of have some of those games, or let them know that the game you're going to be playing has the same sort of mechanic, I guess. We've also done escape rooms, and that brings in a lot of people. And I don't mean like big old escape rooms. I mean, there's like the card game escape rooms where you turn over the cards. You're just using the cards to figure out the next clue. We did that, and it's basically what what people are used to. I have been playing games for a long time, and I've really gotten into games, and but I've never played Catan, but everybody says that's like a great gateway game into different games, but I've never played it, so I don't know.
Well, I can just add right onto that. Yes, Catan, formerly Settlers of Catan, is a great one for people who are not already game nerds. It's simple rules and things make sense. Um, a couple that I've liked for introducing people to just the fun of something different other than maybe Monopoly is, or just playing poker, which is nothing against poker, by the way. That's a game. Um, is there's a card game called Flux, Fluxx. It's got very simple rules that are listed on one card that you put down. Draw for your turn, draw one, play one. And then new rules will be added as the cards pop up. Oh, look, draw two. Oh, play three. Whoops, now I have to play more cards than I have. Oh, and it gets sillier from there, but it starts really easy. Another one, especially for silly teens, is what I mentioned, taco, cat, goat, cheese, pizza, in that order. Um, you have to put down a card, but you say something else, and it makes your brain think a little differently. But it's super easy to learn, and then once you get going, it can be very fast paced, and it's silly. So, and I favor silly in games.
Yeah, those are all great. So let's see. We've had some just talk about the links. Okay, so it looks like we've answered all the current questions. So again, if you have thought of anything else, please feel free to share that in chat. I did just drop the link in the chat for a site called Board Game Geek. That is sort of the definitive database of games. I'm sure it is not all games, but there's over 150,000 games in there right now. And like I say, that's probably not all of them. So if you did not know that, and that's just board games, that's not computer games, that's not role-playing games, that's not some card games. So that's just kind of the scope we're looking at when sort of trying to determine what is a good game for a non-gamer is really it takes that reference interview or that sort of, you know, uh, reader's advisory type of and another thing that I think was mentioned, either Liz or Patrick, in their answers, were something called game mechanics. Um, all games are built on a relatively small set of sort of fundamental building blocks, which the industry sometimes calls mechanics. So if you think of Monopoly, that is usually classified as what's called a roll and move game. You just roll the dice and you move your piece, and something happens. It's a fairly simple mechanic, but there are probably 20, 30, maybe more mechanics. And in the advanced search on Board Game Geek, you can sort of filter by those mechanics. So if you do know of a game that someone likes, you can filter it straight down to other games that use that same type of mechanic that they might also be interested in. It's a really great site. Okay, so
Another great introduction to gaming is a mechanic called roll and write. And
yeah,
that would be like Yahtzee is a roll and write. You roll something and you write something on your paper. And there are a plethora of roll and write games that are very, very accessible and very quick to teach, very quick to learn. And I know there are some print and play ones as well. So
mhm.
that's another good game mechanic to start with if you're looking to start trying to get people um, to play games.
Yep.
Also, I just remembered one that is super easy for parties and when you have 10 minutes left in your teen council and you're done with what your job is, there's a phone game called Heads Up. Whoops. Okay, this is not going to be visible.
Yeah.
That is, it's a party game, but it's available as a phone app, and you hold it on your forehead and tilt it up or down depending on if people got the answer right or not. It's silly and fast-paced and involves everybody. You can yell answers out. That's another good one for people who just like trivia but don't want to roll dice or learn a rule.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Interestingly
I have
enough,
one more. Sorry, George, I don't mean to interrupt you.
no, go ahead.
Another really good thing to get, especially teen into gaming and understanding gaming. A party game is One Night Werewolf, which is
Mhm.
one of those games where everybody is assigned a different role and they have to figure out who is the werewolf. And super simple rules, but teens especially love playing that game.
Yeah. Hidden role games are great. That's Werewolf falls into that. Heads up, it was interesting. After ALA Annual, which was in San Diego this year, I had a few days vacation and we went up to Walt Disneyland. And waiting in those lines for rides, you could see people playing Heads Up all throughout the line. There were little groups clustered around, and once one group started playing a game of it, it was interesting to see how many families would pull out a phone and start doing it as well. So just another one of those experience with games that sort of bring people together, even if you don't know who they are, and just, you know, the power of gaming, I guess, was kind of how interesting there. All right. So again, if you have other questions, feel free to drop those in chat. Patrick, you had.
I was just going to say, who knew Disneyland had to be gamified?
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's up. Yep. A couple of other quick games being shared in chat. Oh, and another, I mean, obviously the game roundtables awards, once we start cranking it up, will be specifically tied to games that are good in libraries. But until we've had a few years of doing this and have a good robust list up, you also might look at things like the Mensa Award games, the Spiel des Jahres, that's the German Game of the Year award. They've been doing that for 40 or 50 years, and they've got a really robust list of those nominees and winners in 3 or 4 different categories. Board Game Geek has their own awards, plural, that they give out. So there's, I'm sure, lists on their website of award-winning games. All right. Well, while we're waiting for any more questions, since it seems like we're coming to a natural lull, I am going to go ahead and grab the link for the LEU request form. And I will drop that in chat here in just one moment. But please feel free to keep sharing or asking questions or.
Someone just posted something about Shut Up and Sit Down and Dice
Oh, yep.
Tower.
Mm-hmm.
Good game reviewers on YouTube. That's another way to find good games is go onto YouTube and just look for their game reviews or top 10 board games of the year, or even if you're interested in learning about a particular game, if you go on to YouTube and find I type in usually whatever game playthrough, and you can watch people playing through the whole game. I don't know if anyone was on when we first started chat. Right now, my obsession is terraforming Mars, and I'm obsessive about it. I play like at least once a week with my board game group. And another place to play and learn games is online, and it's a site called Board Game Arena, and they have Terraforming Mars online, and I get to play that every day, and I'm so excited about that. But Board Game Arena has amazing games. If The biggest problem with playing on Board Game Arena is if you're wanting to play what's kind of called a bigger game, like with more rules and more things to understand. Board Game Arena is not really a great place to start because there's so much. But if you know a game and you have a favorite game that you are interested in, you might be able to find that on Board Game Arena.
So Bobby had a question. I work in a seminary library. Are there any suggestions for this type of environment? And obviously, Patrick gave you an answer. Obviously, quieter games maybe is appropriate. I would also think communication games. And so I'll give an example of one, and there are, of course, many in this kind of genre. But there's a game called Just One, where you work together to try to guess. The person who is active, I'll say, draws a card without looking at it and displays it in front of them. And then they pick a number 1 through 5, I believe it is. And then that's the word they're going to have to guess. And everyone else writes a word on their little dry erase board that will hopefully help them guess what the clue word is. And the great thing about this one is that you don't necessarily need to buy the game. You could modify that to any setting, whether it's college, school library, any library. You could be making your own cards with words that are specifically tied to anything you're trying to sort of highlight. And again, there are lots of other communication games where, you're working together or in, teams or maybe competitively to try to, suss out clues and things like that. Jenga, yeah.
What could go wrong?
Yeah. And then, the mind and there are variants on that as well, where players are not allowed to talk. So any game like that can be great in a library if they do have issues with noise and rowdiness or other settings. Yeah.
This one isn't necessarily silent, but someone mentioned cooperative games, and it reminded me of a card game that it's one of the only card games I've ever seen where everyone is actually cooperating, trying like essentially trying to beat the clock. It's called Hanabi, Hanabi,
Yep.
and you're making a fireworks display. And if you're successful, you beat the clock and make this wonderful display, but you can lose. Everyone can lose, or everyone can win. That's kind of a fun dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah. Cooperative is probably one of my favorite mechanics right now.
Someone
And
Jenga, one of the things we did was we took Coke, 12 pack of Coke things, and we wrapped them in heavy butcher paper, and we made a giant Jenga. And that thing has lasted like 6 years. I'm super surprised about that. I think this year might actually be the last year we're going to be able to use it until we fix it up. But that is a fun one too. Um, for cooperative games, there was another one and it just went out of my head and I can't remember what it is. So I'll stop talking.
so someone asked about grants. The Roundtable does specifically have a grant. The window opens, I think, in January every year. So keep an eye out for that on the blog and or through the Facebook or this Discord or other places. I'm sure there are other organizations out there, but that's the one I know of specifically. And in terms of grants, you can probably look at just about any other source of grants for library materials and just make your pitch for why collecting games would be good for your community. I will grab this link, copy link. So that link is all the webinars that the State Library has done that are game related. And there are obviously several in there about sort of benefits of gaming, as well as different aspects of gaming. So if you can sort of key in on any of those benefits or reasons why it would be good for your library, that might help support a grant proposal. Yeah, pandemic, it was not the first cooperative, but it was certainly the first cooperative that sort of broke through and had mass appeal. And yes, there are probably close to a dozen editions by now.
Oh, random thing I thought of, different type of game, and you may already be playing it. Pokemon Go is fairly popular still, and our library happens to be a gym, and I can explain that if you need it, but it just means that Pokemon Go players will come there. If you're not already one, you can find someone who you know who is playing and see if you can have them make a stop there at least, and you'll get those people just randomly coming to visit you.
Our library is a gym as well. And we've been talking about board games this whole time, but we also do have, like, our teens, of course, love video games. We've done some video game tournaments with them. We're doing a Super Smash Brothers tournament for them. So that's another way to get people in.
Yes, video games can be really great as well. I certainly know less about them, but I've definitely seen, I know, yes, I just saw someone put Mario Kart. Height of the pandemic, I saw someone had set up a large projector in their parking lot and were bringing the controllers to people in their cars. So you were sitting in your car with the controller playing Mario Kart up on this really big screen. So it was a great way to sort of build community while everyone still had to stay distant from each other. Kind of a fun twist on it. All right. Well, if there are any more questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. I am going to drop the link one more time for the LEU request form for anyone who needs it, but I'm definitely seeing the questions kind of slow down, so I will go ahead and have Lisa stop the recording.